Okay, go.
Recording. All right. Hi there. I'm Kelso. If you have any questions while I'm talking, you can interrupt if you like, or if you want, you can write it down and feel free to ask me whatever you'd like after my little talk. But I'm Kelso, and I'm a science journalist. That means that I cover current events in science. So that could be new research results or events like what you saw in that video, the launch of the NASA's Perseverance rover, which should happen in the next couple weeks, which is really exciting. So science journalism is a part of a larger field of science communication. And that can look like a lot of different things. Some science communicators work for universities and big laboratories and write about the discoveries made at that institution. Some communicators make YouTube videos and podcasts about fascinating science topics. Some work for news organizations like New York Times or the Washington Post and write about current events in science. And it covers a whole range of topics from climate change to robotics, artificial intelligence, medicine, all under the umbrella of science communication. You may know of a couple famous science communicators. Some of my favorites were Bill Nye the Science Guy and Neil deGrasse Tyson when I was growing up. But when I was your age, I really had no idea I wanted to be a science journalist because I didn't really know that the career existed. I thought that to be involved in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, I had to be a scientist, a doctor, or an engineer, and I didn't know that I could mix the artistic part of myself with the scientific part of myself. But for a little bit of background, I'm from San Luis Obispo. I went to Sinsheimer Elementary School, Laguna Middle School, and San Luis Obispo High School. And growing up around here, I loved nature, I loved science, I loved learning about birds and bugs and the stars and planets, all sorts of things, human body, the environment. But I also loved building things and creating things. So when I eventually went to college, all the way on the East Coast in Baltimore, Maryland, at Johns Hopkins University, I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to study or what I wanted to be, but I had an opportunity to explore a lot of different subjects at my school, which was nice because they didn't make me choose a major until I had some exploration. But eventually I found that I particularly loved my chemistry classes, especially organic chemistry. So I decided, I'll major in chemistry. So I had an opportunity then to start working in a chemistry lab on campus, and I got an internship over the summer working in another chemistry lab, and I really got to try it out and see what it's like to be a researcher, be a chemist, and which was really wonderful opportunity to have that experience before committing to the career. And I found that I loved my science classes and I found chemistry research really interesting, but I wasn't sure if it fit me perfectly. I had a lot of other interests outside of chemistry and I felt like I wanted to be more creative, so I wasn't sure if being a scientist was just right. But right around then was when I learned about science communication. At my school, we were required to take a few writing classes, which at the time I was like, darn, I have to take a writing class, because I didn't think I liked writing very much. But it was really that I didn't like the type of writing that we had been forced to do in school, and I wasn't confident in my writing abilities. So I sort of was just like, I guess I'll take this class called Writing About Science, because at least I'll like the science part of it. But it turns out that this was my first introduction to science news writing. So we would read a science paper and interview the scientists who wrote it, interview some other scientists, get their outside opinion, and then write a little news article about it. In other words, we practiced science journalism. And so this course taught me a lot of different things, but especially that I actually liked this form of writing and that I could improve my writing abilities and get more confident in my ability to be a writer. And I realized that science journalism might fit me a little bit better than just science, as it allows me to continually learn about a lot of different areas of science while being creative and working with a variety of different people. It seemed to fit my needs and my skills better than just research by itself. So once I realized that I wanted to pursue science journalism, I started taking more journalism classes and writing for the school newspaper, and I used these articles that I wrote for my classes and for the newspaper to get my first ever science writing job, which was a summer internship in Long Island, New York, where I got to write about particle physics and sustainable energy and engineering and all sorts of subjects that I really wouldn't have learned about otherwise. I got to interview really cool scientists and climb inside of a huge particle detector, and this job really proved to me that I could be a science writer and that I really liked it too. So this job also exposed me to the community of science communication. There are science communicators of all kinds all over the place, but it's still like a relatively small career field, which I found is really great because it makes the community tight-knit and very supportive. So, and also everyone finds science communication in a different way. Some people start as a journalist and find that they like covering science. Some start as a scientist or an engineer and realize they want to start writing. And some start doing it early on in college, and some have started a different career and eventually pivot to science communication. It makes the field really welcoming for all different types of people with different types of backgrounds. So I've had really great experiences in science journalism, and in particular at science journalism conferences, where I got to meet other writers and editors and form relationships with them. I even received fellowships to travel to the World Conference of Science Journalists, which is this huge gathering of science communicators from all over the world that happens every 2 years. It let me travel to San Francisco and even Switzerland for free, which was really cool. And it was an amazing week-long experience of just collaboration and community all around with a bunch of people who love science. So much fun. So once I discovered that I wanted to be a science writer and I started pursuing science writing, I thought, that's it, I'm done. I've found what I want to do, and that's that. But that's, of course, when things changed once again. And after my college graduation, I was initially planning on going back home, being a freelance science writer, but then my parents split up and I didn't have a place to stay, and I was like, oh no, I'm not sure what to do. But luckily, a friend led me to an unexpected opportunity to work actually at a wilderness center in the woods of northern Minnesota, which was pretty random. And at first I was hesitant because it wasn't what I imagined myself doing after college. I thought maybe this is a divergence from this path that I thought I was on, but it ended up being exactly what I needed. The Wilderness Center itself was fantastic. It sits on a pristine lake surrounded by pine trees and wild berries, and it has a community of creative and hardworking people led by this really cool Arctic explorer who has been to both the North Pole and the South Pole, which is wild. And it ended up being a really wonderful change of pace after a kind of a fast-paced college experience. But it also provided a really unexpected pivot in my career. It was at this wilderness center that I had my first chance to take photos and make videos professionally. It helped me discover that I liked communicating through video and photo in addition to writing, and it gave me a new dimension that I could really enjoy science journalism. And later on, these videos that I made at the Wilderness Center ended up being critical to my career as they helped me get an internship at Scientific American in New York City as a video journalist. And Scientific American is this science publication that is actually the oldest magazine in the United States. It's been around since the early 1800s. And I've always looked up to this publication, and I never imagined that I could work there. But then I did for 6 months, which was awesome. And I made videos and wrote articles about glacial floods and processed foods and fire tornadoes and an X-ray telescope and all sorts of other topics. And I really enjoyed the work that I did there. But I would probably never have had that opportunity if I hadn't taken the unexpected opportunity at the Wilderness Center that, it didn't seem like the right fit, but it ended up being the perfect thing for me. And since that job with Scientific American, I have worked as a freelance science journalist. And freelance means that I don't work for just one person. I write and I make videos for a variety of different people. my last project, which is what you saw, was with Science Magazine. And freelancing allows me to choose my own projects, work remotely, and live wherever I want to. So I have freelanced from Colorado, from here in San Luis Obispo, and even in France. And this is another part of science journalism that I really enjoy, is that having the opportunity to freelance gives me more flexibility in what I work on and where I can live. So, but right now I'm about to take another new step in my career. In September, I am starting a master's degree in science journalism at MIT, which is the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in Boston. And while there, I hope to make new connections with science journalists and get better at writing and making videos. And afterwards, I hope to find a job as a video journalist, but I will be open to opportunities that might lead me in a new direction. Because there have been many times in my life that I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do or what I wanted to be. I saw some other people with very specific plans for their life, and I felt like I was doing something wrong by not having this exact plan. But I followed my interests and I committed to the opportunities that came my way, however random they seemed at the time. And it ended up leading me down a path that I could never have imagined in the first place. Mm-hmm. So it's okay if you don't know what the future holds. None of us really do. But you can follow your passions and make the most of your opportunities, and it might lead you somewhere wonderfully unexpected. So that's my little talk, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have. If you want to know more about the video I just created or other experiences that I've had, or if you're still confused about what exactly science journalism or science communication is, please feel free to ask whatever you like.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have a question about, how do you get a project? Is it something that you just come up with, or does somebody suggest a project? I mean, this Mars rover project, how did that start?
That's a great question. There's a lot of different ways that you can find this work. Sometimes you have an idea and you're like, oh, I would love to write a video or make an article about this thing. And I think you find a publication who you think maybe they would want you to write about this thing. And you say, hey, publication, I have this great idea and I think you'd like to pay me to write this idea for you or make a video about it. And that's what we call pitching. So you can pitch an outlet and say, I have an idea and I think you might be interested in it. And the publication will be like, yes, no, maybe, it depends. So that's one way to find those jobs, is by just reaching out to different publications with your ideas. Other times you already have a relationship with an editor or some person in a publication, and they're like, I need a person to write about this, about, the environment. I have a piece that I need someone to write. And they're like, oh, I remember this person wrote for me, a couple of weeks ago, and they might ask you to do this piece for them. So that's helpful to have these relationships so that you're on someone's radar and they can reach out to you for work that you might be interested in. And then another way, which is how I got this, the Mars rover project, is there's different job boards and postings and places where people look for freelancers. And so I saw this posted on a job board that I was following. They were like, we need a freelancer who can make videos about science things, and we want you to make a video about our Mars rover. And so I decided to apply, and I sent them examples of my work, my resume, my references, essentially how you would apply to any other job, really, but it just happened to be for this specific project. And they thought that I could do a good job, so they hired me, and it worked out really wonderfully.
Cool. So do they give you a script, or do you come up with that yourself?
Sorry?
Do they give you a script, or do you create the whole thing yourself?
So for this project, I wrote my own script. But I was working off of, so there was a writer who wrote a longer piece that would go in the magazine. So it would be a print piece. And so I used some of the information that was already in that print piece, and then some information that I found just doing my own research, and then kind of brought it together and wrote my own script, and then recorded that script. So I did the voiceover. That's my voice you hear in the video. And oddly enough, you got to make do with what you have. So I have this little microphone, and I actually recorded that in a closet underneath the comforter in a pillow fort because that provided the best sound. So, which is pretty funny. You don't expect that, but you can make it do, make it work. So I wrote the script, and then I went and sorted through a bunch of NASA footage. So it's wonderful to make a NASA video because any footage from NASA is free. You can use it freely. And so I went through all the different NASA galleries. I found photos and videos, and then I chopped them up and fit them together based like over my script so that it felt like it had an actual flow. And I also did some of the animating in there. So any of the moving graphics and things like that, I did that as well. It was pretty much a start to finish, which was really cool to do each step of the way for this project.
Is your video background self-taught, or did you have classes in it? Or what would be your advice for the girls for their future, not knowing where they're going to go for sure? Would that be a benefit to them to take videography classes, photography classes, research classes?
That's a great question. I think if you have an opportunity to take classes, if you're interested in videography, photography, etc., if you have an interest and you have an opportunity to take a class, totally go for it. I would totally recommend it. I had one photojournalism class in college that I really enjoyed and was very helpful. It just so happens for most of my skills, I have been self-taught just by circumstance. I initially was working with someone at this wilderness center who taught me some of the basics of video editing. And so it was really great to have someone to work with there. But otherwise, I honestly watched a lot of YouTube videos, and there's an amazing amount of resources on the internet. And if you want to learn a program or some sort of skill, the information is out there. And it's really amazing how much you can get from just free videos on the internet. So I have a combination of a little bit of formal experience, but mostly just kind of self-taught sort of thing. Mm-hmm.
Girls, do you have any questions?
Wait, so like you can you kind of work from wherever you live?
Yeah, so that is one way to do science journalism. Some people work for a publication in a specific place, in an office, more typical work experience, but a lot of writers, videographers, photographers are freelance, which means that they can work from where they live. Sometimes you do need to be in a specific place for a specific job. Hopefully they send you to that place to do your work. But a lot of this sort of work, especially writing, the freelance writing, you can do from anywhere. And that was a really nice flexibility that I didn't think I would have as much as a scientist to move wherever I needed to move.
Okay.
That was
Tiffany, did you have any questions?
Oh, Tiffany, did you ask something? I didn't hear you.
No, I don't think I have any questions.
Oh, that's okay.
Sydney, how about you?
I don't think so.
Okay.
That's okay.
Kelso, how did going to Tech Trek Camp impact your future for high school, college, and the future?
Well, it was just a wonderful exposure to a lot of different topics that I hadn't necessarily thought about before, learning about a little bit about robotics and physics, and it just made me excited about science in a lot of different ways, science and engineering. And I think it's really important to have these repeated sort of opportunities to get excited about a subject that you're interested in and be around other people who are also excited about that. Mm-hmm. So it definitely gave me more interest and more excitement about science and engineering. And being on the college campus, when we got to be on the college campus, that was really cool to have like kind of my first exposure to what college sort of looks like, because that was my first time sort of thinking about that. So it was a nice introduction. to that.
Unfortunately, our girls weren't able to go this summer. What would you recommend that they do, since they don't have that experience of meeting other girls who think like they do, feel about science the way they do, and for their future? What would you recommend that they do this coming year in school and in the future?
Mhm. Well, you do have a little bit of community with the other girls who are selected here. So if you can, form relationships with each other, and, if you share things with each other, like, oh, I saw this cool science video, like you might want to see it, or, I'm interested in this, taking this class, or, going to this camp or something like that. Keeping an eye out for things that excite you and sharing them with other people who might also find that exciting, I think would be great. Since you can't have this in-person experience, let's see, I would say, well, if you do, so some of you live in South County of SLO. I think if you have an opportunity to come up to Cal Poly or go to Allen Hancock or Cuesta and just experience a college campus and just walk around, and maybe if you can find someone to talk to and learn a little bit more about what it's like to be on a college campus or at a community college, I think that's wonderful, just to get a little bit of exposure. But certainly don't stress yourself out about, the college stuff. It's fun to think about it in a fun and exciting way, not so much, oh, I need to start, applying for college or anything. Don't worry about that just yet.
Okay. Any other questions, girls?
So I have a question. So what is your current project? What are you doing now or dreaming about doing?
Yeah, well, right now I'm kind of taking a little break to start packing my things because I'm about to move to Boston. I'm finding my housing, and my mom's also moving right now, so we're doing a lot of moving things around at the moment, which is nice that I can just take a little break from work before going back into it. But I'm hoping to work. I pitched a project right before COVID started, and that kind of got pushed back. There's a nonprofit news organization called Retro Report, and they make short news documentaries, some longer news documentaries. So they're essentially videos like the one that I made, but a little bit more of a like a newsy style. We'll interview a bunch of different people and make a longer video about a specific topic. Oftentimes their angle is looking back into history and what can we learn from history about the current events that are happening now. And so I'm hoping to work with them on a project about weight stigma in medicine. So there's kind of this assumption around that someone of heavier weight is less healthy than someone who is lighter. And that's a misconception. And there's a lot of misconceptions about weight and health. And that kind of leads to heavier people getting worse health care because of just this bias that exists. And so I want to do this short news documentary about looking at this historically. What is the state of this right now, the research that's going on about this, and what can change. So that's what I'm hoping is my next project. I've been working with a producer to start working on that.
Interesting.
So what I'm impressed with is kind of the breadth of scope of your projects, from a Mars lander to medical, biases. And so, I think that's, to me, and hearing you, one of the exciting things about what you're doing. And I remember having a friend who felt that all of the math books were very poorly written, that they were difficult to understand. Technically, they were good, but her goal was to always rewrite all the math books so that they could be understood. And I feel like that's what you're doing, is you're taking something that's very technical, very complicated, and making it simple for those of us who aren't immersed in it to understand. And I think that's such a cool thing that, I never had heard of science journalism until I heard that that's what you were doing. So
yeah, I love that aspect of it. I love the variety of things that I get to work on. It's really fun because each project I get to take like a little dive into a new subject area and just immerse myself in that subject and learn as much as I can about it. because I have to understand it in order to explain it to someone else. And that's really the role of the science communicator, is the bridge between scientists and everyone else, even other scientists. If I'm a geologist, I'm not going to necessarily be able to read a physics paper. So I still need a science communicator to explain what that physics paper is talking about. So everyone needs, if they want to understand science, like, we're just kind of easing the gap between the scientist and the people who want to learn about the science.
Are we going to see you get a Pulitzer Prize in science journalism someday?
We'll see.
That's a hope and a goal, right?
Sure, why not?
And you all could say, and I knew her when, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe one of you three will do it.
Exactly. So.
Yeah, Linda, you notice she's leaving us out of that. So.
Oh, hey. One of you five, pardon me.
I guess the other thing I want to highlight about what impressed me and what you just had to say is that how you don't always know where you're going in life, and just being open to the opportunities that are there, and sometimes following a lead that seems like it's off course can often be that take you right in the direction that leads you to a very happy and comfortable place. That this, I didn't even know I could have done this, and this is meeting my interest in science and writing, and and I think that often happens for people. There are those people who are goal directed from youth, but more people are like you. I think that it's a random class. Well, I have to take a class in writing. I'll take this class, and whoa, suddenly a world opens. So that's my encouragement for the three 7th, 8th graders, I guess, to just always be open to that possibility that, let me introduce you to somebody, and suddenly another world opens to you. So.
Yeah, it's happened to me multiple times and it's, you think all that's the options that are available, but you really don't. Like, there's just so many things, so many niche, exciting things that you'll learn about just by living and meeting new people and trying new things. So you really don't know what you might stumble upon that you might really like. And even if something doesn't seem like exactly what you expected, but it can end up opening a new door to something else exciting.
Right. And I would say, don't be afraid to make a change either. Sometimes we get to college and we get stuck in a major because that was available, and we get stuck there and we're afraid to change. Having had 3 careers in my lifetime, yeah, it was scary making a change, but if I hadn't have made that opportunity to go somewhere else, do something different, I wouldn't be the person I am. And so don't be afraid to maybe rock the system a little bit and make those changes, because whatever you're doing isn't fitting you right then and there.
Definitely. I agree wholeheartedly with that. It seemed like when I was a chemistry major, I still got my degree in chemistry. I finished my degree there, and I loved it. I really loved studying chemistry, and I loved my science classes so much. But it felt for a while that we were kind of told we only had 2 options. You could be a scientist or you could be a doctor with your chemistry degree, which is totally false. Honestly, you can get, as you can attest to, you can get any degree, and if you still want to change and you want to do something completely different, it's still an option. You never feel like you've completely cut off some area that you're interested in because you went this direction. There's always room to change, and it can be scary. Like, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to be a science journalist. I didn't know what that looked like or how to get there. It was like, I'm here and I want to go over there, but I'm not exactly sure what path to take. But kind of following each little step along the way and trusting that, as long as you have this general, enthusiasm in this direction, it'll carry you where you want to go.
Right. Exactly.
So I have another question that's kind of not science-based, but and I know there are other students who aren't here today who've talked about going to the school on the East Coast. And for a California native, what was it like to go to school on the East Coast? Because I think that's another step that some people choose to take, which is, significant to experience another culture in our own country. So.
Mm-hmm. I'm really glad that I made the choice that I did. I mean, I know that I would have loved school on the West Coast as well, but it was really great to be exposed to this new culture and to seasons for the first time. I know people are nervous about it being really cold on the East Coast, and certainly it does get colder than here. But there's a lot of really wonderful things about, having seasons, like the falling of the leaves and the blooming in the springtime. So it's not all bitterly cold winter, so don't think that. And you meet a lot of different people that I wouldn't have met in San Luis Obispo or, wherever I was considering. Otherwise, I was particularly grateful to be in Baltimore. It was a really vibrant and different community than what I was used to. And it was great to get out of my little bubble of what I was used to and get exposed to some new things. And so I really liked it. And I'm going back to the East Coast. I like both. Love the West Coast, but I also like the East Coast too. There's a lot of wonderful things, different things to offer. Each coast has different things to offer, but I definitely, it's definitely a shift. You do have a feeling of it's like, I was nervous, I was nervous to go to the East Coast. And when I first got there, I wasn't sure exactly what to expect, but being open to change, as you said, is huge, and being adaptable, it ends up being a huge help, and it opens up new opportunities.
So one final opportunity, girls. Do you have any questions for Kelso before we wind up today?
I don't have any.
I don't think so.
No worries. Are you all interested in a particular area of science, or are you just like a lot of different things, or what interests you about this realm?
I just like exploring and learning.
Great. Science is a great way to do that.
I'm kind of the same way. I'm kind of all over the place with it.
I can relate.
You've got a lot of learning to do, a lot of exposure to do. High school, I think, even offers opportunities that you haven't even thought about perhaps at this point. So,
yeah.
What were you saying, Tiffany?
I saw that, Kinsey. Nice yawn. Well, you guys will be starting school remotely, I believe, in just
Yeah.
a couple of weeks. How's that going?
It seems like it's going to be interesting.
That's a good word for it.
To say the least. So, well, hopefully they'll be able to get this under control, and you guys will be able to go back into the classroom soon. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so.
not too soon. We don't want to lose anybody. So,
really. Okay.
well, I want to thank you, Susan, for organizing this. It's been interesting to hear from Kelso. So,
and if any of you have questions that come up afterwards or later on, you're interested in science communication or something that I could help you with, feel free to, Susan can connect you with me, and I'm always open to answer any questions and help you out if I can.
great.
Okay,
Thank you,
so
Kelso.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelso.
Thank you guys for coming.
Bye, girls.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a great day.
You too.